What InfoComm is there no more matrix switcher? What year?
Oh.
I'll let you think about that as I read the next story. AV Buyers Club.
This is from AV Buyers Club. InfoComm 2025. One of the spotlights is on how professional AV.
All right, Mr. Gray, what year, what InfoComm edition it no longer has a matrix switch?
Sorry, that's a fair question, and I got totally distracted from thinking about it.
I can't even imagine how I'd try.
Oh, great. There he goes off into his fantasy world. Now I'm stuck here waiting until he snaps out of it with some weird comment.
We'd have to find a whole lot of gnomes. That's helpful.
How InfoComm 2025 is impacting higher ed technology design and the various things that you can do at InfoComm when it comes to higher ed, and the state of AV over IP. All that and more next on AV Week. This is AV Week, episode 713, recorded Friday, April 18th, 2025. AV Ability. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of the biggest AV news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. Our top story this week, QSC has announced a temporary pause on orders for over 200 of its products, citing the current tariff climate as the primary reason. In a letter sent to AV dealers, QSC stated, due to the current tariff climate, we are issuing a temporary order pause on specific QSC audio and QSYS products. The affected items include amplifiers, speakers, cameras, and control systems. Notably, QSYS core processors are not impacted by this pause. QSC clarified that inventory currently held in the U.S. warehouses will remain unaffected, ensuring that existing stock can still fulfill current orders. This move by QSC marks a significant response to the evolving international trade landscape, particularly concerning tariffs on goods imported from China. For integrators and dealers, it's crucial to review current and upcoming projects to assess any potential impact from this pause. Engaging with your QSC representatives and systems integrators will provide clarity on product availability and help in planning accordingly. Now, we will, of course, continue to monitor this situation and provide updates as more information becomes available. Continuing with the tariff situation, the Trump administration has announced temporary tariff exemptions for key electronic products. This move comes as part of a broader strategy to mitigate the impact of recent tariff hikes on Chinese imports. According to a notice from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, products such as smartphones, computers, semiconductors, and flat panel displays are now exempt from the newly imposed 145% tariff on Chinese goods. These exemptions are retroactive to April 5th, 2025, and aim to alleviate immediate cost pressures on tech manufacturers and consumers alike. However, it's important to note that these exemptions are temporary. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick has indicated that these products may soon be subject to a new quote-unquote semiconductor tariff designed to encourage domestic manufacturing. For AV professionals, this means a brief window of relief. In fact, Crestron has announced a reduction in their initial tariff surcharge down from 15% to a 5% tariff surcharge effective May 1st. Monitoring these policy shifts and adjusting procurement strategies accordingly will be crucial in navigating the evolving trade landscape. It was a rough Tuesday for remote workers and anybody doing virtual meetings around the globe as Zoom experienced a widespread outage on April 15th. The platform began having connection issues early in the morning, with users reporting failed logins, frozen video, and dropped calls across North America and Europe. Zoom acknowledged the outage on its status page, attributing the issue to a configuration error introduced during a routine backend update. The company says service was fully restored within a few hours, and they're now conducting a post-mortem to prevent similar incidents in the future. The outage is a reminder of our reliance on cloud-based platforms and the importance of having contingency plans in place. From hybrid work solutions to virtual event management, a hiccup like this can cause ripple effects across client engagements and operations. Zoom has promised more transparency in the coming weeks, including a detailed report on what went wrong and how they're reinforcing their infrastructure. Rounding out our headlines this week, a well-deserved spotlight on one of our own. Our friend Chris Neto has been named AV Living Legend number 66 by Commercial Integrator. Currently serving as the head of emerging markets at Midwich, Chris is perhaps best known for creating AV in the AM, a Sunday morning social media forum that has become a cornerstone for AV professionals seeking connection, mentorship, and meaningful dialogue. In his feature, Chris reflects on his journey from DJ to end user, consultant, and now distributor. He credits his longevity in the industry to constant learning and a passion for building community. He also emphasizes the importance of mentorship, noting how the old guard shaped his approach to leadership and how he now pays it forward. Chris's story is a testament to the power of community and the impact one, although very remarkable, individual can have in shaping the AV industry's culture. Congratulations, Mr. Netto. Your recognition is incredibly well deserved. You can read the full interview at commercialintegrator.com. We'll be back after this break with our roundtable discussion. Welcome back. Now we bring in our fantastic roundtable with us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week. First and foremost, Kelly Teal, fantastic AV designer and consultant. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, as always.
Also with us, a young lady I got to spend time with at NAB, Steph Beckett from Rave Pubs.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And a young man who just celebrated his 100th podcast episode from Yavapai College, Ryan Gray. How are you, sir?
Very good. Good to see you, young man.
We'll talk about Ryan and his podcast, IV Amplifier. But yeah, very, very cool to see you guys hit 100. That is a feat. I'll just put it that way. So, first story we're going to tackle this week actually is two different sources. Mitchell will put both of them up on the website. Commercial Integrator and AV Network, talking about how honestly the commercial AV industry is evolving as AV over IP becomes more and more prevalent. It's taken over matrix switchers. Matrix switchers are not going away tomorrow, but they're kind of trying to be pushed out. According to the articles, both of them actually, this shift is driven really around demand for scalability, flexibility, remotely managing solutions across various sectors, and security, which is a huge thing, especially for governmental environments, also for higher education. Some IT and AV teams are reevaluating the need for AV over IP, whether or not it makes sense for them. Emerging trends such as custom LED wall integration, software-based AV solutions, and enhanced network security are really kind of shaping the future of AV over IP, emphasizing the need for integrators to adapt and get better at IT infrastructure. Just say that part again. Systems integrators might want to get better at IT infrastructure. Mr. Gray, you are our AV and IT person at Higher Ed this week, so I will ask you, what business benefits have you seen or expect to see or maybe don't see when it comes to putting AV over IP in supplanting a traditional AV system?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the answer to that is what have we seen and what will we continue to see is the same as any other enterprise IT type deployment. You know, when it comes to networking equipment, when we manage our computer endpoints, you know, everything we're doing now is built around a holistic, broad view deployment of technology to create, to your point, to create security, interoperability, expandability, flexibility, all of the abilities that follow. And AV is no different, and it really needs to move that way. So in our world, you know, we are in the middle of a large renovation of a building, and in that one we ripped out all the Cat 6. It went back in all Cat 6A, and it will be AV over IP from end to end. Meaning that anything we need to change in the building in the future is easy to change. It's easy to move. We're not locked to any given infrastructure. But to the point you made, and I just love how hard you hammered it, is we have to be good at networking. We have to be good at networking. And that is the expectation of our in-house integration team is we play on the same field as our networking partners in IT, so that we speak their language, they speak our language. We're as committed to security as they are committed to security. And before you know it, now we've got, on our production network here, AV, all of our AV stuff running as as an enterprise IT thing. We have had challenges in having, integrators come in and we are, obviously we're a place that's all in on AV over IP. And they are far more comfortable saying, well, we'll come in, we'll put a switch, and it'll just be air-gapped network for this one thing we're going to do. And of course, that negates then the advantages we want of monitoring and accessibility and all those sorts of things. So I couldn't agree more. AV people on campus need to be able to operate at that level to be the bridge between their local network administrators and integrators coming to work on their campus. And take on that role of not just translating, what one is saying to the other, but setting that integrator up for success by making sure that they can show them how to, play nicely on that network and follow the internal protocols of that institution.
Kelly, how has this move changed how you both communicate and design for higher education, but also how you translate and bridge that gap between, as Ryan was saying, the systems integrators that are going to bid on and do your designs and, your customer, the higher education folks?
Glad you asked. I just had this issue the other day. So I think for starters, AV over IP has been a ground up process. So for instance, I just had a system design the other day, and it made sense to do AV over IP because of how many rooms and room types we had. But then the issue came up, we're now switching to local equipment racks within the rooms. So AV over IP is not needed. And so I said, well, I don't want to give you guys a matrix switcher and then it's discontinued in a few months either. So we had this kind of, back and forth where most of the building and some of the other larger and more complex room types, it made sense. But then we had these individual rooms that became essentially local systems, and it didn't make sense to do AV over IP in there. And it was just for the simple fact of, we were locating everything locally, and it was just more, cost effective to not do AV over IP with, if this is not going to have any future proofing needed, this is not going to be an overly large or complex system. So it was kind of, it felt like to me, like it was kind of like a step back, because AV over IP has just been the go-to for so long. And, matrix switchers aren't widely used as much as they used to be. And, when the AV industry kind of started redefining with the AV over IP protocol, it kind of just, it changed how signals were moved, how systems are architected and secured and deployed. And now we are replacing those traditional matrix switchers. So, it eliminates the need for those fixed size switchers, and which used to be very expensive, space consuming. And that's all, downside to doing something with as opposed to doing AV over IP encoders and decoders, because you can just you want a new source, add an encoder. You want a new display, drop in a decoder. But then we have situations like this where it's like, okay, well, do we need to do that? It's not necessary. And we don't have that many inputs. We don't have that many outputs, and we have more than 2, but we have less than 10, and so, it's something now where, systems are now expected to be more modular and dynamic, and especially like you both had mentioned, standardizing on IT infrastructure as well. That was something that in this scenario, we didn't have a way to merge AV with the IT realm. We meaning the AV systems now have to live on these enterprise grade, wrong word. They now have to live on these enterprise grade switches. And we just didn't have the means to back that up, with an IT team, I guess you should say. And it also, switching to AV over IP also enables more of a centralized management approach and remote support. But it also means that the AV teams deploying these systems have to speak that IT language and understand QoS, IGMP, multicast. They didn't have the staff on hand to do that. And so we ran into this situation, and this is kind of I wouldn't say it's common anymore. This is rare. But we tried to sell them on that flexibility and interoperability and say, hey, these AV over IP systems, you can route the signal anywhere you want, regardless of location, and as long as it's on the network. And we've got video walls in other parts of the project and overflow rooms. Why not just do it here? And they were just very set on nope, we want everything local and we want it simplified. And so I get just as many people coming back to me trying to move away from AV over IP as people who come back and say they want to do AV over IP. So it's still a little bit of a tussle, and we security, being that, must be designed in. That's another thing that a lot of people are I'm getting 50-50 feedback, as far as remote access and cloud management, like platforms like Reflect and QSys Reflect and Crestron has the XIO Cloud, and the Extron Navigator is a big one. I love using the Extron Navigator. They offer that powerful remote support in most situations. And again, in this situation, they just didn't want to deploy that. So, it was kind of a struggle saying, okay, well, we got to go from, back from the software approach to the primarily hardware approach. And, do you want just boxes and cables? Do you want to do traditional audio processing? You want these control systems? And my struggle with that is there's manufacturers like Crestron who are getting rid of some of this stuff and permanently, and they are moving up to AV over IP. And I'm just not seeing a lot of, as much as I thought by 2025, I thought I would see more people advocating for AV over IP. And I'm still seeing a lot of people kind of moving away from it. And I don't know if that's just a pricing thing, if it's, end user friendly interface thing. I'm not seeing as much of it as I would like, and with parts and products and different gear being discontinued, it's definitely going to be a ground up approach. There's going to be a push for it. And eventually, I don't think they're going to have a choice. I think most of those parts from what I've heard, Crestron's getting rid of their matrix switchers at some point. So they won't have that option. So then the next best thing is Extron. And what point are they going to get rid of theirs, right? So we might be forced into this. And bottom line for integrators is, AV over IP is you got to force your convergence with IT. You've got to make AV infinitely more scalable, and you've got to require integrators to level up on their networking, cybersecurity, and their system design. And we got to be ready for that. And I don't know if we are completely ready for that yet, just from what I've seen.
I mentioned stuff that you and I were at NAB. There were several different protocols at NAB. NDI, SDVOE, Dante was there. You've got the Ames Alliance folks. You've certainly got SMPTE 2110 on the broadcast side. Yeah, exactly. Right. I completely forgot about them. So when you look at this, and as somebody who covers this industry, and you go to a lot of trade shows, how are we able to get both the integrators and honestly the IT and the AV managers on the same page when it comes to the IT-ification, the networkification of the industry? How do we get them all there? With as Kelly said, some folks are still kind of leaning on the way we used to do things, and still do to a certain point with the boxes. But you've got folks like Ryan's group who is all in on AV over IP. How do we kind of meet in the middle here and make sure that we're all going the same way?
That is a very difficult question. So glad that you asked me. I don't know. I don't know. I think that I see it as my job to just let people know what's out there. I never feel like it's my job to make the call of what's going to be better for certain projects. Like, I don't know about that. Y'all know about that. I don't get paid to know about that. But what I do get paid to do is to tell you all of the options that are out there, and to kind of sift through the marketing claims of because everyone's going to tell you that their protocol can do everything. It can't. It's my job to let you know that it can't, and what it actually can do. So I think I don't have like a preference, a horse in the race, but I can tell you what the trends are. I can tell you that AV and IT are becoming incredibly intertwined, and that AV and IT and broadcast are becoming incredibly intertwined. And if that means that we're going to have to be more, IT focused in the way that we speak and the way that we know things, I know that I am. I know that I'm having to cover that, and you are too, Tim. So I see it as our job to kind of tell people, look, this is like what I saw at the show. This is the way that things seem to be going. Take from that what you will. That being said, everything that everyone was talking about was AV over IP and every standard known in the world, and how we're going to have 85,000 ways of sending information over the network. And it's kind of like, well, there are all these options out there for a reason. It's because people keep needing them.
And Steph's right. It's not our job to tell you which flavor you need. That's Ryan and Kelly's job, but you do need to pick a flavor and go with it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it doesn't totally answer your question, but I do think
No, it didn't. 100%.
like I think that we help people meet in the middle because we tell them what's out there.
With a lot of change going on, that kind of, like you said, coverage and journalism is really important to help people who are busy every day be able to cut through the sales things that they have. And like I like the sentiment of like, how do we bring people to the table to look at some of this? But what I see a little more is the industry's going this way.
Yeah.
The only question is it going to leave you behind or not, almost? So it's a little bit of a darker way of looking at it. But like we said, things are getting discontinued. Trade shows have this. You can see it happening. That is the way things are moving. So there will be a certain amount of time where people can hang back, and there is levels of simplicity and comfort in some of those things. But either AV people will intrude into IT, or the IT people are going to come take over AV. So I'd rather be on that other side.
Right. And I like us better. So I think we
Exactly. I like us better.
We're getting ready to do a story about InfoComm coming up here in 25. You're the end user in this show because I'm gonna pick on you. What InfoComm is there no more matrix switcher? What year?
Oh.
I'll let you think about that as I read the next story. AV Buyers Club, this is from AV Buyers Club. InfoComm 2025, one of the spotlight is on how professional AV is revolutionizing learning environments from K-12 through higher education and honestly corporate training sectors. InfoComm, of course, held in Orlando this June. It will feature immersive demonstrations and education sessions highlighting AV's role in enhancing interactivity and effectiveness in both physical and virtual classrooms. Some of the key programs, including the HETMA Higher Education Summit, which Mr. Gray is a part of, discussions on integrating AI in AV and IT solutions, and hands-on design labs led by experts from Johns Hopkins University and UCLA. Attendees also have the opportunity to participate in tours showcasing cutting-edge AV implementations at the University of Central Florida, emphasizing the transformative impact of AV technology on modern learning spaces. Kelly, we'll start with you. How are these advancements influencing the design of these education institutions?
I've had so many conversations about this.
Really quickly, I don't talk to Kelly before I pull the stories. I just want to point that out. The second one in a row, she's, go ahead.
No, this gets talked about a lot. So I think there's a dramatic reshaping, right? So both in how instruction is delivered and how students engage, because we have to consider the engagement level too. I talk a lot about post-pandemic, right? So that shift towards, even with work environments, it's the same thing. The shift towards flexible, hybrid and tech forward learning environments is not slowing down. In fact, it's more of an expectation now. So hybrid, of course, learning is the new normal, always on classrooms, often equipped with cameras, mics, display, the things we didn't have as kids in classrooms when we were growing up. We need to have now the ability to support simultaneous in-person and remote instruction. So that's not going away. I think with, especially too, I've seen a lot of increase of, can we get a PTZ camera with auto tracking and again, AV over IP routing, allowing that seamless live streaming and recording, which is another thing we're seeing a lot in the education world, whether it's higher ed, K through 12. I'm seeing it even in K through 12, believe it or not. Active learning environments. My daughter's in one right now. She's in a space that's essentially that was designed for collaboration over lecture. And even though she's in a daycare, they still have students gather in small groups, and they have their own displays, and they have their own little devices that they can use. And, I think in the older classrooms and like I said, again, higher education, you can also, they are expected to have their own displays and input devices as well. And I think AV systems now supporting the multi-display, multi-source layouts. Instructors can now show a student's screen next to their content, or even run multiple group presentations at once, depending on the environment. And then we're even going as far as immersive learning with XR and VR. AV is a core enabler of that extended reality classrooms and labs, especially simulation spaces, are being fitted with these immersive displays, VR headsets and audio systems that, support kind of a virtual science lab or 3D modeling, simulated environments. I mean, we're getting closer to robots taking over than we think, even in the education world. And I think that's not going away. I think that's going to be something that continues to, especially with the remote monitoring and support, the data-driven insights, simplified AV control, because that's always a big ask. I think it's just AV is no longer a tool per se. I think it's more of a foundational infrastructure for modern education. I think schools and universities that do invest in these flexible and mostly intuitive AV systems are seeing better engagement, which is most important, better retention, which is even more important. And then, just across the board overall, they're tailoring their insights to, again, from K through 12 all the way to higher ed, and leaning more on those specific technology platforms that they're using in the classrooms today. So I think it's only going to go from there. I don't work in a school, but I can tell you what I've seen, and they want more technology. They want more upgrades, and they want more shock factor and value. And I think that's really where we're headed in classrooms, more so than office spaces and financial centers and institutions.
Steph, we already talked about one of the evolutions, and that's obviously AV over IP, but what else have you seen kind of evolving and coming out that is really impacting this higher ed or even the K-12 space?
Well, I think it's just technology in general. We're seeing so much more of it in every single classroom. And I don't like to shout out COVID that often, but shout out COVID, because I think previously having so much AV tech in a classroom was seen as a nice to have, but not a need to have. And this has totally shifted the mindset. And we now see technology as a need to have in every single classroom. So it's not like a dusty old lamp projector in there from 2002 anymore. People are upgrading as soon as they can and as frequently as they can, because they see this technology as being so integrated into the classroom's experience. I obviously don't work at a school, but I have seen it because I work so close to UNC's campus that they have integrated New Rava into a lot of their classrooms now because of the people joining remotely. And so now you can hear the students in this classroom because of the microphone mist technology that throws out, those tiny little microphones all over the class. So if someone asks a question, the people on the far end can hear it. So there are things like that were previously seen as being a luxury item that are not really seen like that anymore. So that's just one example. Presenter tracking and using AI integration and presenter tracking is another really big one, because we have so many students joining hybrid if they're sick or if something happens, but they still want to be able to be in class. That's now so much better of an option than it used to be. And that's the option now, because if you have COVID, they still obviously don't want you to come to class, but you don't need to miss class for 10 days while you're recuperating. So that presenter tracking allows them to still get everything that presenter is doing and pick up everything that they're saying from Zoom or from Teams or wherever they're joining from. That is now seen as something that's very integrated into the classroom experience, which is cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. All right, Mr. Gray, what year, what InfoComm edition it no longer has a matrix switch?
Sorry, that's a fair question, and I got totally distracted from thinking about it because, I do these two ladies. I do work at a school, right? I work in an associate CIO.
We'll get to your question in a second. Give me a freaking year.
All right, 2029.
There we go.
There you
okay.
go. That's the over under, and I started right there. But
all right.
No,
now you can continue.
Thank you. Here I am, trying to. I'm sorry,
Tim,
Mr. Host.
Technology people overthink. We don't have a simple answer to anything.
No,
yeah, well, that's the problem.
And he's going to be totally wrong, but that's okay. I'll play this back in 4 years and make fun of him.
That sounds good. All right, I looking forward to it. Okay, but no, what I was going to say. So, right, I work in an associate CIO role. Right, I come from AV. I bleed AV. My master's degree is in instructional design, not a technology-related field, and I could literally co-sign everything that the two of them just said. Nice. It is so heartening to hear those perspectives of collaboration first, collaboration forward. Instruction, both synchronous and the other thing is capturing and being able to deliver out of time content from classes. Why would we have, someone sick, a working parent whose kid is sick? Why would we harbor that information from them? Like everything, that was amazing. Everything they just said was so on point about where things are going and what role AV is playing in the future of this and enabling it. We can now say to an instructor, don't worry about the technology, just come in and do what you're going to do. And be it beamforming microphones, microphone mist that she called out, auto tracking, EPTZ options, the technology from the experience disappears from their thought process. Yeah. They just go in and be subject matter experts and get students talking and collaborating and it disappears. And the other thing that we're so set up for is the COVID, huge transformation, but generative AI is blowing COVID out of the water in higher ed circles, right? And hence, the project-based learning, problem-based learning that those active learning things lead you to, when assessment of learning can't be essays anymore, they're too easy to have other things put forward. But a podcast about something, getting questions live and being able to answer them, other media-enabled things are moving farther and farther to the forefront. And AV technology is there now when we need new answers for how some of these things get done. Our industry has given us the yeses to those questions. How can we do this other thing? Let me show you how you can do it. And so it's a really exciting time actually for the advancement of AV in teaching and learning.
I love that. That'll be a good place to stop. Thank you all so much. Kelly Teal, thank you, ma'am. How do people connect with you?
LinkedIn. That's about it.
All righty. Steph Beckett. Steph was nice enough to have me on her Wednesday show this past week. And you can check that out, Rave Live, and you can check it out every Wednesday. I'm not on every Wednesday. It's entirely too early for me. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, my time. But Steph, how do people connect with you or Rave?
Sure. You can go read everything Rave at ravepubs.com. And we also have a end user facing version of our publication, which is avbuyersclub.com, which is what we do with Tim in partnership with AVNation. And as for me, you can connect with me pretty much anywhere where there is a social media, Twitter or X, LinkedIn, Instagram, like really anywhere. I don't know. I'm a millennial. I'm everywhere. You can just search Steph Beckett, basically.
Oh, and by the time this post, you guys will be launching Launch Week 11. So how do people connect with that?
Oh, yeah. And that's lavnch.com, Launch Week 11. It is going to be 3 days full of content, which is CTS, CTSI, and CTSD certified. You get 2.5 for every day that you come. So please do it. It's going to be fun.
All right. Mr. Gray, thank you, sir. How do people connect with you? Or you have a Pi College? Yeah,
appreciate that. Yeah, I will shout out the AV Buyers Club article that was in here. Everybody, please link and go look at it. It does such a great job of running down the education focused stuff at InfoComm. There's a ton going on, the summit and all that, and it calls me out by name, so I really appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? So there's great content coming this year for InfoComm. That's awesome. Yeah, no, please find me on LinkedIn. Love to connect with everybody. Yavapai College, as always, is at yc.edu, and be on the lookout for what I'm sure will be the AVNation Project of the Year, Center for Learning and Innovation for 2025, as we're in full swing on that. And then I'd point everybody to, if you're bored, check out hireatav.com, where my show and a host of other shows are, not to steal your line there. No. But we've got over starting now and through the summer, some new voices, new columns and new things coming to bring kind of more voices into this conversation because of where we are kind of in how AV is shaping education, where it's time to really, punch up the number of people who are able to weigh in on that conversation.
And that's where you can check out Ryan's 100th episode, which is still something, I don't care who you are, getting to 100 episodes is something magical. So you should be very proud of that, sir. I'm Tim Albright. Don't follow me on anything. You can, if you want to read things that I write that had nothing to do with technology or AV, you can follow me on LinkedIn. How about that? But go by the website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. You will find this program, and as Ryan said, a host of others. Mitchell's been busy this week. He's got 2 brand new episodes. He's got a brand new EdTech with our buddy Aaron May Moran, and of course AV Career Mastermind with Jen. So you can check out both of those. If you are watching us on YouTube and you're tired of looking at my dumb face, you can subscribe to our AV Week podcast, Spotify, Apple, I don't care, wherever you get podcasts. And if you're listening to us and you want to see what all four of us look like, you can check us out on YouTube. So either way, go the opposite direction, but go by the website if you would. Please, AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That is all the time we have for AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.